Everyone knew Mike Barnes from the Karate Kid movies was gonna make a return, we just didn't know how. But there was a popular and almost absurd fan theory that almost became a reality. Everyone thought Mike Barnes would be Johnny's repair store boss from season 1. When the very first episode of Cobra Kai aired, it gave us a peek into what Johnny Lawrence's life looks like 30 years after the All Valley tournament featured in the Karate Kid. And during that episode, Johnny speaks to his boss over the phone, a guy named Mike, about a job he seemingly got at some kind of furniture or repair store.
You know what? I hated this damn job anyway. You better pay me what you owe me, Mike. Mike?
Needless to say, this brief mention of Mike had fans buzzing with theories that this could be none other than Mike Barnes, the antagonist of the Karate Kid 3.
Come down here.
Yeah, right, look. I need your title.
So then enter the tournament and go for it.
Maybe you didn't hear me. I need your title.
After all, Mike Barnes and his story were later referenced in Cobra Kai 2, which only made it seem like this Mike must be him. We were all left scratching our heads after Johnny Lawrence called Terry Silver, claiming to know a sensei or two. Of course, this led everyone to start coming up with wild theories about how Mike Barnes would show up in Season 5, and where he had been all this time. But when Season 5 rolled around, it was revealed that Mike Barnes owned a furniture store, and many of us were quick to think back to Johnny's job in Season 1. But sadly, our hopes were quickly dashed when it became clear that the two had never met before, but his return was actually better than the theory. When Mike Barnes became Johnny's boss in Cobra Kai Season 1, I for one had a ton of questions about him. Was he a long-lost relative? Did he have some kind of connection to someone else close to Johnny? Well, one creative fan theory suggested that Mike was actually Miguel's father. After all, the bad boy of karate had become a dangerous criminal after his fight with Daniel LaRusso, so why couldn't Mike be part of that story? Another theory was that Terry Silver would call him in as a henchman once again. But if any of these theories were true, then it would have made the Cobra Kai universe feel a lot smaller, and I don't know if that would have been received well by the fans. Plus, what's the point of having a badass villain if you don't give him enough backstory to become truly menacing? When Mike Barnes finally showed up in Cobra Kai's 5th season, it felt like a callback to the original Karate Kid movie. It was an epic moment when Daniel said his name and that slow reveal of Barnes's face. Of course, we all wondered what would become of the bad boy character. Would he be a villain again? Well, Cobra Kai actually surprised us in a good way. Barnes had moved on from his more hectic days and was there to help settle some old scores. It felt like the perfect resolution for one of the Karate Kid's most iconic villains. He was no longer a bad boy, but instead part of a bigger story that linked back to the original trilogy. This isn't the only thing you probably didn't notice in the last season. Everyone missed the octopus symbol. Miguel and Sam have quite the emotional journey in Cobra Kai Season 5.
Look, Sam, I owe you an apology. I shouldn't have abandoned you like that. I was trying to start a new chapter and figure out my past, but I wasn't thinking about you.
After Miguel leaves for Mexico without saying anything, Sam can't help but feel betrayed. But when Miguel returns, he's determined to make it up to her. To do this, he buys her jewelry, a necklace with an interesting pendant in the shape of an octopus. Ah, the giant stuffed octopus, one of the most iconic symbols of Miguel and Sam's relationship in Cobra Kai. Remember when they went on their first date? Well, that's when it all began. Miguel won the octopus at a carnival game, and being the romantic he is, presented it to Sam as a gift.
Octopus would like to know if you are better at karate than you are at mini golf.
Fast forward to later in the series, and that octopus was still around, only this time in the form of a necklace for Sam. It obviously meant a lot to Miguel since he put so much thought into it, but sadly, the necklace ends up being thrown away by him when things get tough. Later on though, Sam finds it and the two eventually get back together. Talk about a perfect ending to their story. Who knew that an octopus would be so important?
Is this yours? I found it at Miyagi-Do.
That was, supposed to be yours, but
I broke up with you before you could give it to me.
Something like that.
Speaking of love stories, I don't think anyone's gonna forget how Amanda met Daniel. If you're not a die-hard Karate Kid fan, the connection between Amanda LaRusso and her cousin Jessica Andrews might have gone totally over your head. But Jessica's appearance isn't just for nostalgia.
Spill the beans. What's going on with you and Daniel?
I guess it all started when he got back into karate.
It also explains how Daniel and Amanda first met. During their chat at the local bar, Jessica reveals that she put her cousin in touch with Daniel when Amanda first moved to California.
By the time you were moving to LA and I put you in touch with Daniel, he was way past all of that.
Turns out that even though Jessica moved back to Ohio after the Karate Kid Part 3, the two remained close enough friends for him to be a point of contact for Amanda. It's really cool to think that this tiny detail connects Amanda to the larger Karate Kid timeline. It gives a bit of an upgrade to Jessica, who didn't have quite as much screen time in the original film. Now, it looks like she has a more important role in the franchise. Amanda and Daniel's relationship is kinda like a parallel to Miguel and Sam's. Speaking of which, Cobra Kai loves to make parallels. The show is no stranger to narrative parallels, but Season 5 kicks it up a notch. We get to see old favorites like the friendship between Miguel and Robbie, which is similar to the art of Johnny and Daniel's relationship.
Let's get clear about one thing. I didn't come down to Mexico for you.
Nobody asked you to go anywhere. Hey! Stop it.
But now, we also see the many reformed villains on board, Johnny, Chozen, and Mark Barnes, offering a unique view of Daniel's former rivals from the original film trilogy. Each of these characters has their own individual journeys as well. Chozen has been living in self-loathing for ages, yet with more remorse than Johnny had when we first met him.
Not come near Russo family. You cross Rhine, you will beg for mercy.
Similarly, Mike finds solace in the joys of becoming a small business owner, an arc that mirrors Daniel's in many ways. And it's not just the villains who are paralleled. Johnny and Miguel's relationship continues to mirror Mr. Miyagi and Daniel.
Sorry, man, I'm dealing with some family stuff. All right? I washed my hands of the Cobra Kai thing when we lost the tournament.
What? You started the whole Cobra Kai thing.
Particularly after Miguel sees the kind of man his biological father is. Plus, Tori skips all the anguish usually faced by Karate Kid film villains by admitting her mistakes and seeking peace. It's clear that the writers of Cobra Kai Season 5 put a lot of thought into the web of characters and their intertwined arcs, creating an entertaining series full of humor and plot points that are easy to follow. But maybe the biggest parallel of them all is Daniel taking down Silver for Mr. Miyagi. It would have been so cool to see the legendary Mr. Miyagi take down Terry Silver in Cobra Kai, but sadly, because of Pat Morita's passing in 2005, that dream will never be a reality. Still, things worked out pretty well for Mr. Miyagi, since it's ultimately two of his own students that take down Silver, Daniel and Chozen. When we first meet Chozen in The Karate Kid Part 2, he's all about himself and not particularly loyal to Mr. Miyagi's code or principles. Fortunately, by the time we get to Cobra Kai, he's become a master of Miyagi-Do and puts up a valiant fight against Silver. And he's pretty successful too. The only thing that stops him from defeating Silver is an especially dirty trick. When it comes time for Daniel to face off with Silver at the Cobra Kai dojo, Silver is already exhausted because of his battle with Chozen. This makes him an easy target for Daniel, who combines both Miyagi-Do and Silver's own aggressive style of fighting to take him down for good. So even though Mr. Miyagi isn't there to defeat Silver himself, his teachings are still used as a weapon to stop the villain, a fitting tribute to such a special character. Well, that was how an absurd theory that almost became a reality. See you in the next video.